You remember way back when reality television was the way people described the nightly news? The unscripted genre has completely changed the landscape inside the screen you're watching right now, but how has it altered the meaning of the word reality?
Have you ever wondered what happens when the cameras stop rolling on your favorite reality shows? The glittering world of Storage Wars captivated millions with its promise of hidden treasures and instant fortunes. But beneath the surface of competitive bidding and entertaining personalities,
155 there, 165 where? 155, 165 here, 175 now. I got 165, 175 to 185, 185. Chicken said no. 185 going once, $185 going twice. I'm into it. Don't let you wait for $175, Renee. You bought it for $175.
I was bidding over here.
Lurked, a much darker truth. Some cast members walked away with their lives forever changed. Others never made it out at all. What you're about to discover will shake your understanding of reality television fame. The untold stories, the hidden tragedies, and the devastating price of celebrity that some Storage Wars stars paid will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the show. The glamorous facade that hid a nightmare. For years, Storage Wars dominated cable television. Every episode followed the same thrilling formula: abandoned storage units, secret contents, and the possibility that today's auction could contain tomorrow's fortune. Viewers across America scheduled their evenings around the show, watching familiar faces bid, win, and occasionally lose in the high-stakes world of storage auctions. But what made Storage Wars truly addictive wasn't just the treasure hunts, it was the personalities. The show introduced us to characters who seemed larger than life, each bringing their own style, strategy, and drama to every auction. We laughed at their jokes, celebrated their victories, and groaned at their losses as if they were old friends. Yet behind every edited scene and scripted confrontation, real human beings were navigating the treacherous waters of sudden fame. The bright lights and recognition came with shadows that viewers never suspected. And for some cast members, those shadows grew so dark that they couldn't find their way back to the light. The man behind the Rico Suave persona. When Mark Balio first appeared on Storage Wars in Season 2, he commanded attention immediately, walking into auctions with designer clothes, expensive accessories, and a leather man purse stuffed with cash. Mark projected an image of unquestionable success. His nickname, Rico Suave, fit perfectly with the smooth, confident persona he presented to the world. Every auction became Mark's stage. While other buyers showed up in casual clothes ready for dusty work, Mark arrived looking like he'd just stepped out of a luxury car dealership. His appearance sent a clear message. This was a man who knew how to make money, and he wasn't afraid to spend it. Behind his company, Balio Incorporated, Mark had built a genuine business empire. His retail store attracted customers searching for deals on items purchased at storage auctions. He understood the resale market intimately, knowing exactly what would sell and for how much. But here's the question that haunts everyone who knew Mark. Was the confident exterior a carefully constructed mask? Did the man who seemed to have everything actually have nothing he truly needed? The hidden addiction that destroyed everything. While Mark Balio smiled for cameras and made bold bids at auctions, he was fighting a private war that nobody on set fully understood. For years, methamphetamine had controlled his life. The addiction started long before Storage Wars, but fame intensified every aspect of his struggle. Think about it for a moment. Imagine battling addiction while simultaneously having your every move broadcast to millions of viewers. Every awkward moment, every sign of struggle, every hint of vulnerability gets captured, edited, and displayed for public judgment. The pressure would be unbearable for anyone, but for someone already fighting for their life against addiction, it became a death sentence. Mark tried desperately to maintain the illusion. He showed up to auctions. He ran his business. He kept the smile plastered on his face. But addiction doesn't care about appearances or professional obligations. It strips away everything until nothing remains but the next fix and the crushing shame that follows. By early 2013, Mark's carefully constructed world began crumbling. The arrest for methamphetamine possession should have been a wake-up call, a chance to seek help and rebuild. He posted bail within hours and walked out of jail as if nothing had happened. But something had changed. The mask he'd worn for so long had finally cracked beyond repair. The final, desperate hours. 2 days after his arrest, Mark visited his fiancée. Those who spoke with him described a man who seemed lost, scared, and utterly defeated. The confident Rico Suave persona had completely vanished, replaced by someone who could barely hold himself together. He spoke about feeling devastated, about the shame consuming him from the inside. What was going through Mark's mind during those final hours? Did he see any way forward, or had the addiction and public humiliation closed every door? On that tragic day, Mark's girlfriend discovered him in his car inside the closed garage at his auction house. The engine was still running. Carbon monoxide filled the enclosed space. At just 40 years old, Mark Balio died alone in a parked vehicle, surrounded by the remnants of the business empire he'd built and lost. Officials ruled the death as suicide. The news sent shockwaves through the Storage Wars community.
Mark Balio, an auction house owner best known for appearing on A&E's reality series Storage Wars, has been found dead of an apparent suicide.
And devastated fans who'd enjoyed Mark's television appearances without ever suspecting the anguish behind his confident smile. The forgotten victims of tragedy. But Mark's death didn't just claim one life. Have you ever considered the ripple effects when a business owner suddenly dies? Mark's company, Balio Incorporated, employed 12 full-time workers. These weren't television personalities or people seeking fame. They were warehouse staff, retail clerks, delivery drivers, and office workers, simply trying to earn honest livings and support their families. On the morning after Mark's death, those 12 employees arrived at work expecting a normal day. Instead, they learned their employer had died, and more devastating still, that the business was permanently closing. There was no succession plan, no one to take over operations. Imagine being one of those employees. You wake up, get ready for work, maybe drop your kids at school, and arrive at the job you've held for years. Then someone tells you that not only has your boss died tragically, but you're also unemployed, effective immediately. Rent is due in 2 weeks. Your mortgage payment can't wait. Groceries need to be bought. The specialized skills these workers had developed, understanding storage auctions, resale markets, and inventory management, didn't easily transfer to other industries. Finding new employment quickly became a desperate struggle. 12 families lost their financial stability overnight because of one man's private battle with addiction. Within weeks, another empty storefront appeared in an already struggling strip mall. The man who'd once strutted into auctions with confidence and cash had left behind nothing but devastation. When cancer strikes without warning. If Mark Balio's story taught us that addiction can hide behind even the most confident exterior, then Gunter Nezhoda's death reminds us that illness can strike anyone, anywhere, at any time. Gunter appeared on Storage Wars as a recurring buyer between 2015 and 2019, bringing a completely different energy to the show than the dramatic personalities who dominated most episodes. Where others shouted and argued, Gunter remained calm. Where others celebrated victories with theatrical gestures, Gunter simply smiled with quiet satisfaction. But what really captured audiences' hearts was watching Gunter work alongside his son, René. The father-son dynamic brought genuine warmth to a show often characterized by conflict and competition. Seeing a parent teaching their child the family business, passing down decades of knowledge and expertise, resonated with viewers in ways that scripted drama never could. Together, Gunter and René ran the Bargain Hunter thrift store in Poway, California. Customers traveled from miles away to browse through their discoveries. Decades of experience gave Gunter an almost supernatural ability to spot hidden value. While other buyers rifled through boxes of apparent junk, Gunter could immediately identify the one item worth more than everything else combined: the invisible decline. For years, Gunter's life seemed full and successful. His business thrived. His relationship with his son remained strong. To outside observers, everything appeared perfect. But in early 2023, something changed. Gunter began experiencing unusual fatigue. At first, he attributed it to age and the physical demands of running an auction-based business. So Gunter did what many people do. He ignored the warning signs and pushed through. The fatigue worsened, then came the shortness of breath. Weight began falling off without explanation. Finally, when the symptoms became impossible to ignore, Gunter sought medical attention. The diagnosis hit like a sledgehammer: Stage 4 lung cancer. Not early stage, where treatment might offer hope. Stage 4 meant the cancer had spread throughout his body, leaving doctors with limited options and precious little time. Here's what makes Gunter's story particularly heartbreaking. He battled this disease quietly for approximately 6 months before his death. For half a year, while running his business and maintaining his public presence, Gunter knew he was dying. He carried that knowledge privately, sharing it only with his closest family members. Gunter Nezhoda passed away peacefully in March 2023 at 67 years old, surrounded by family. His son Rene shared the news with fans, revealing the cancer battle that most people never knew existed. The outpouring of grief from Storage Wars viewers demonstrated how much Gunter's quiet kindness had meant to people who'd never even met him. When the cameras stop, the danger doesn't. Brandy Sheets grew up in the storage auction world. As the son of Daryl the Gambler Sheets, Brandon learned the business from childhood, appearing alongside his father on Storage Wars. Their father-son dynamic created memorable television moments and suggested a bright future for Brandon in the industry. Then, in 2017, everything changed when Storage Wars producers let Brandon go due to budget cuts. His father remained on the show, but Brandon found himself suddenly removed from the spotlight and searching for new opportunities. How do you adjust when the fame disappears overnight? Brandon eventually found work as a driver for UPS, a respectable job that kept him employed but was far removed from the excitement of storage auctions and television production. The crash, that almost killed him. In 2024, Brandon shared a terrifying story on Instagram. He'd been sleeping in the sleeper berth of a UPS semi-truck while his co-driver, filling in for Brandon's regular partner, handled the driving. This arrangement is common in long-haul trucking, allowing drivers to take turns behind the wheel while the other rests. At approximately 70 miles per hour, the substitute driver collided with another truck. Brandon described the moment of impact as feeling like a bomb going off. 1 second he was asleep, and the next second he was being thrown around inside a truck that had transformed into a metal death trap. Emergency responders rushed Brandon to a Texas hospital before he was eventually moved back home to Arizona for continued care. Miraculously, despite the severity of the crash, Brandon sustained only minor physical injuries. But the psychological trauma of waking up to such violence leaves scars that medical examinations cannot measure. Corporate abandonment. Here's where Brandon's story becomes even more disturbing. After surviving this horrific crash while working for UPS, Brandon revealed on Instagram that the company provided no workers' compensation and no reimbursement for personal belongings destroyed in the accident. An employee nearly dies while performing his job duties. His personal property gets destroyed. He suffers psychological trauma, and the massive corporation he works for offers nothing. No financial support. No acknowledgement of responsibility. This raises uncomfortable questions about how companies treat workers whose jobs involve genuine danger. If a former television personality with a public platform receives this treatment, what happens to the thousands of anonymous drivers who lack Brandon's ability to share their stories? The collector who faced death on the highway. Barry Weiss embodied cool. From Storage Wars' very first season, viewers fell in love with his unique approach to auctions. Unlike other buyers obsessing over profit margins, Barry seemed to genuinely enjoy the treasure hunt itself. He collected weird, interesting, and historically significant items simply because they fascinated him. After 4 seasons, Barry left Storage Wars in 2013, joking that he wanted to return to being a world-class slacker. He'd never needed the money or fame. He participated because it was fun, and when it stopped being fun, he walked away without hesitation. But in 2019, Barry's life changed forever, in the span of a few terrible seconds. The motorcycle accident that shattered 2 lives. Barry had been riding motorcycles for decades, a passion he shared with his girlfriend of 30 years. Together, they'd experienced the thrill of winding mountain roads and long desert highways. On that day in Los Angeles, they were riding together as they'd done thousands of times before. Then, without warning, a car pulled out in front of them without looking. The impact launched both riders into the air. Barry's injuries were catastrophic. 9 hours of surgery, followed by a week-long coma. Broken bones throughout his body required multiple repair procedures. But here's what rarely gets mentioned. Barry's girlfriend was right there with him. The car that destroyed Barry's body destroyed hers too. The impact broke her back and damaged her spine, injuries that would require months of treatment and therapy. While news coverage focused on Barry's recovery, his girlfriend faced her own agonizing rehabilitation, largely outside the public eye. Even years later, she continues dealing with chronic pain and ongoing medical treatment. The psychological weight of the accident strained their relationship beyond its breaking point. 30 years together couldn't survive the combined trauma of near-death, chronic pain, and emotional toll. They eventually separated, both carrying scars that will never fully heal. Think about the cruel irony. A couple who shared a passion for riding, who'd spent 30 years together, saw that very passion destroy their relationship and their health. One careless driver, one moment of inattention, and 2 lives were permanently shattered. Barry eventually recovered enough to make a small comeback to Storage Wars in seasons 14 and 15. But he didn't appear in season 16, leaving his future with the show uncertain. Meanwhile, his ex-girlfriend continues dealing with the painful aftermath, still fighting to walk without hurting. The family that survived multiple near-death experiences. If there's one Storage Wars family that understands how quickly life can change, it's Dan and Laura Dodson. As the energetic auctioneers who set the pace throughout the series, they brought energy and professionalism to every episode. But behind their successful public personas, the Dodsons have faced terrors that would break many families apart. The morning Dan nearly died. In 2014, Dan Dodson woke up, experiencing double vision. Before he could fully process what was happening, he collapsed. His body had finally reached its breaking point after 40 years of cigarette smoking. Laura didn't freeze or panic. She immediately performed CPR on her husband, a skill she fortunately knew, but never expected to use on someone she loved. Those chest compressions saved Dan's life, according to doctors who treated him later. Emergency surgery followed, along with the stark reality that Dan's lifestyle had nearly killed him. He quit smoking immediately, abandoning a 40-year habit. Recovery was long and difficult, but Dan survived and eventually returned to work. Most families would consider surviving such an ordeal sufficient trauma for a lifetime. The Dodsons weren't so lucky. the night their son was shot. Fast forward to 2020, and tragedy struck again, this time targeting their son, Garrett Dodson. At just 22 years old, Garrett was visiting his significant other in Arizona when a drive-by shooting turned his world into a nightmare. A bullet tore through his body, rupturing his vena cava and causing massive internal bleeding. Can you imagine receiving that phone call as a parent? The panic, the terror, the desperate rush to get information while your child's life hangs in balance. What makes Garrett's survival even more remarkable is that he called 911 himself, despite critical injuries. First responders arrived quickly, stabilized him enough for transport, and airlifted him to Las Vegas for emergency surgery. Laura later described how the trauma team worked tirelessly, with one doctor literally massaging Garrett's heart during the flight to keep him alive. The surgery succeeded, but Garrett's recovery journey had just begun. The bullet had fractured his spine, requiring extensive rehabilitation to regain mobility and strength. The shooter, Garrett Wilder, was arrested and charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault, disorderly conduct with a weapon, and related crimes. At least the justice system ensured accountability. For the Dodson family, these experiences bonded them together in ways that fortunate families never experience. They understand how fragile life is, and how quickly everything can disappear. The gambler who nearly lost his final bet, Daryl Sheets earned his nickname, the Gambler, through a high-risk, high-reward approach to storage auctions. He'd bid aggressively on units that others avoided, trusting his instincts even when logic suggested caution. Fans loved his enthusiasm and the way he transformed abandoned storage into significant finds. But Daryl's biggest gamble wasn't made at an auction. It was the gamble he took with his health, the heart that almost stopped. In March 2019, Daryl revealed devastating news. He'd been hospitalized after being sick for 3 months and experiencing a mild heart attack. The diagnosis got worse. Congestive heart failure coupled with serious lung issues meant Daryl was fighting for his life. How long had he ignored warning signs? Like many people, especially men of his generation, he likely pushed through symptoms that should have sent him to doctors months earlier. Surgery followed, along with the frightening reality of wearing a defibrillator vest, a constant reminder that his heart could stop at any moment. 1 month after surgery, Daryl provided an update offering cautious hope. Doctors reported his heart function had improved to 40%, a significant increase though still far below normal. The defibrillator vest could finally come off, but 40% heart function meant Daryl would never fully recover. His heart was permanently damaged, his physical capabilities forever limited. The energetic treasure hunter who'd enthusiastically torn through storage units would need to pace himself and accept that his gambling days of pushing physical limits were over. Daryl also underwent a noticeable weight loss transformation during his Storage Wars tenure. He credited Nutrisystem for helping him shed pounds that had been destroying his joints and overall health. Years of poor eating habits and fast food consumed between auctions had taken a serious toll. The weight loss wasn't just about appearance, it was about survival. Giving his body better fuel and reducing strain through lower body weight likely helped his recovery and continues supporting his compromised cardiovascular system. When being the villain destroys your real life, Dave Hester understood his role perfectly. Storage Wars needed a villain, someone viewers loved to hate, and Dave embraced that character completely. His signature, "Yup," became iconic, a verbal warning to other bidders that he was about to drive prices impossibly high. But Dave made a critical error. He confused the television character with reality, and that confusion cost him everything. The lawsuit that changed everything. In 2012, Dave filed a lawsuit against A&E and the production company behind Storage Wars, making explosive allegations. He claimed the show was staged, that producers planted expensive items in storage units, and that some cast members knew what was inside units before bidding began. According to Dave, he'd complained about these practices and was fired for refusing to participate in the deception. The legal battle consumed years. Both sides hired expensive attorneys, filed countless motions, and prepared for potential trial. Legal fees mounted into 6 figures and beyond. Meanwhile, Dave's auction business began crumbling. Without Storage Wars exposure, his sales dropped sharply. Customers who'd visited his stores because they recognized him from television stopped coming. The IRS audited Dave's finances. Business partners who'd once been eager to work with him suddenly distanced themselves. Some filed lawsuits over unpaid debts as Dave's cash flow dried up. Employees left as operations slowed. When the lawsuit finally settled, the terms remained confidential, but insiders suggested Dave's financial payout was minimal, nowhere near enough to compensate for the losses he'd endured. To survive financially, Dave returned to smaller-scale online sales, a humiliating step backward for someone who'd once operated a thriving retail operation, the son who changed his name. Perhaps the saddest casualty of Dave's legal war was his relationship with his son, Dave Hester Jr. Growing up immersed in storage auctions, Dave Jr. had learned the business thoroughly. Everyone assumed he'd eventually take over the family business. But fame and controversy changed everything. Once Storage Wars aired and the lawsuit became public, the Hester name transformed from an asset into a liability. Classmates, teachers, even parents of friends would make comments or ask invasive questions about the show. Think about navigating high school while your father's legal battles dominate online forums and entertainment news. Every mistake he made got viewed through the lens of his father's public image. Eventually, Dave Jr. made a drastic choice. He changed his name on social media, deleted old posts, and severed all public connection to Storage Wars, the family business that was supposed to bond father and son. Instead, drove them apart. The relationship that couldn't survive the spotlight. Brandy and Jared Schultz were Storage Wars' most complicated couple. Their on-screen relationship oscillated between playful banter and genuine tension, with arguments that sometimes felt too real to be entirely scripted. When news broke that they'd split up, few fans were shocked. What did surprise people was learning they'd never actually married, making their separation legally simpler, but emotionally just as complex. Brandy consistently described herself as the primary caregiver for their 2 children, Cameron and Peyton. Even before the 2018 split became public in 2020, she handled most parenting responsibilities. After the split, Brandy remained with Storage Wars as a main cast member. She became active on social media, sharing her life as a single mother. She rebuilt her identity around being independent, capable, and moving forward. Jared, however, did not return to Storage Wars after season 13. His departure coincided with legal troubles that would cement the end of his television career. The domestic violence charge. In May 2021, Jared faced a misdemeanor domestic violence battery charge related to Brandy. The details remained largely private, but the charge itself ended any possibility of Jared returning to the show. For Brandy, the charge validated her decision to separate and move forward independently. The legal consequences extended beyond the courtroom. Jared's reputation suffered irreparable harm. He largely stayed quiet online, maintaining a low profile. Brandy found new love, posting photos in May 2024 with her boyfriend Clifford Beaver, a realtor. Her social media posts radiate happiness and contentment, suggesting she's found the stability and support that eluded her during years with Jared. Jared's post-Storage Wars life has been significantly quieter. His last notable Instagram activity occurred in May 2022 when he posted a photo with Rachel Beckman. Beyond that, Jared has maintained a private lifestyle, avoiding the spotlight that once defined his daily existence. the auctioneer who chose family over fame. Emily Wares brought youth and energy to Storage Wars when she joined in Season 10. As one of the youngest auctioneers to appear on the show, she impressed viewers with her fast-paced auction chant and genuine expertise. Over 4 seasons, she built a reputation as a talented, enthusiastic auctioneer. She could have easily parlayed that fame into longer television opportunities or other entertainment ventures. Instead, Emily made a choice that bewildered many people in Hollywood. She walked away. After leaving Storage Wars, Emily returned to her family's business, Wares Auctioneering, which she co-runs with her father. Based in Idaho, she manages operations across several western states, organizing online auctions and handling large-scale events. She also travels nationwide as a contract and benefit auctioneer, helping with fundraising events. Beyond auctioneering, Emily pursued her passions for music and leather artistry. She maintained balance between work, creativity, and personal fulfillment in ways that reality television fame would never allow. Emily has explained that Storage Wars was never part of her long-term plan. She viewed it as a fun opportunity and valuable experience, but never intended to make television her career. After filming Wrapped, she was happy to return to her family, her business, and the things she genuinely loved. Emily's story offers crucial wisdom that contradicts everything Hollywood teaches about success. She had fame, recognition, and opportunities to pursue more television work. But Emily understood something that many cast members learned too late. Fame isn't worth sacrificing what truly matters. Family, independence, creative fulfillment, and the freedom to live life on your own terms are worth more than any amount of recognition. Conclusion: the real cost of reality. TV fame. The stories of Storage Wars cast members reveal a disturbing pattern. Behind the excitement of treasure hunting and competitive bidding, real people faced addiction, illness, accidents, legal battles, and relationship failures. The cameras captured entertainment, but they also amplified every struggle, turning private pain into public spectacle. Mark Balio's death reminds us that addiction thrives in secrecy and shame. Gunter Nezhoda's battle with cancer shows how illness respects no one. Brandy Sheets and Weiss nearly lost their lives in accidents that had nothing to do with fame, but everything to do with the unpredictability of life after the spotlight fades. The Dodson survived multiple brushes with death. Daryl Sheets gambled with his health until his body nearly gave out. Hester's quest for vindication destroyed his business and fractured his family. Brandy and Jared's complicated relationship collapsed under the weight of public scrutiny. Only Emily Wares seemed to understand the secret. Fame is a chapter, not the whole story. By choosing family over celebrity, she found something more valuable than television recognition. She found peace. What can we learn from these tragic stories? That reality television fame comes with hidden costs, that the personalities we see on screen are real people facing real struggles, and that sometimes the bravest choice is walking away from the spotlight and returning to what truly matters. The next time you watch Storage Wars or any reality show, remember the human beings behind the characters. Their lives continue long after the cameras stop rolling. And for some, those lives become more challenging than any storage auction could ever be. What do you think about the hidden costs of reality TV fame? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more eye-opening content. And click the next video showing on your screen. You won't want to miss it.